Hi everybody, Steve Griffiths here, developer of the MTPredictor software program. In today's MTPredictor video, I'd like to take a look at the DAX, particularly on a 5-minute chart, and have a look at what we call a Holy Grail trade setup. This is one of my favourite trade setups in MTPredictor because it has the largest potential profit in relation to the smallest initial risk, and I'll show you that a bit later in the video. So how do we do our analysis in MTPredictor? Well, we look to the higher time frame. We have got a color-coded indicator here that we use for our trend direction, but for the users who are more experienced, we no longer use this. We go out to the higher time frame charts. The reason for this is we have our DPs, or decision point levels, that are leading indicators, in other words, are on the chart in advance. So let's go out to the 15-minute chart. Remember, we're looking for time frames between 3 and 5 time frames higher. So what do? Well, we go back to look at prior swing highs and lows. So there's an obvious swing low here at the low of the day, the previous day. So if I right mouse click here, do decision point, this would have given you an area of support. The important thing to notice here is that area of support would have been on the chart in advance before the DAX even got down to this level. But the important point is that it's higher time frame support. In other words, it's 15-minute support. As the market starts to rally up, it actually makes a double top here, then starts to come back down again. So in other words, from here onwards, the largely trend is up. Is up into where? Well, here's the last swing into this low. So remember, we're looking for setups after about 5:30, 5:45 New York time. So this would be a setup for the European traders among us. In fact, the setup came in here at about 9:30, 9:45, so it's when the US markets opened. But the point being is, after this low came in here, the largely trend would have been up. Been up into where? Well, again, we just look at the last swing pivot. Here's the last swing to the low. This area here would have been an area where we'd right mouse click, do DP, and this area would have been on the chart. In other words, this would be a potential area of resistance. And as you can see, the DAX has just reached this now. So the ideal thing would have been to have a buy setup after this low here, but before the market reached this high here, unfolding as an ABC. If we go down to the 5-minute chart, that's exactly what we got. See, here the market rallied up. It actually rallied up in what also was an ABC. In fact, it actually was a double top there, so it wasn't a perfect trade setup. We had a TS3 sell, but of course, as I've explained, the largely trend would have been up. It would have been up off this 15-minute support zone into this 15-minute resistance zone. So even though this particular sell setup here came down and actually made a very nice 9.6R profit, that would have been against the largely trend. So if you had have taken this, I'd have suggested once you got to the 100% initial risk level, you bring your stop to break even. But that's not the trade setup I want to look at. The trade setup I want to look at is this particular one here. If I right mouse click, place the analysis on. Why is this one so important? Well, because this is the larger degree support. This is the initial move off the support. In Elliott wave terms, this would be a wave 1. This here is an ABC correction. In Elliott wave terms, this would be a wave 2. We're now expecting a large move off this, but more importantly, we're expecting it to unfold as a wave 3. So therefore, we don't look to come out at our first target here. We look to use our typical wave 3 WPT. You can see it's labeled there in the zone. So I'll grab this risk reward and come up here and take it up to that level. Now remember, that would have been on the chart in advance. So let's just do that. If I just clear this all off, I'll just take our training mode and show you what you would have seen at the time. So at the time, which was there, that's what you would have seen. There's your high time frame resistance level. We right mouse click on this last blue buy bar, do the analysis, grab that, take it up to the top, the typical wave 3 WPT, and that would have been the area of where you'd be looking to take profits, about 8.9 or 9R. It was a good place to take profits because it was also in the area of the higher time frame resistance zone, so a good setup coming together. If I turn training mode off, you can see that's exactly what happened with the market coming up here and has now just hit this typical wave 3 WPT. But the important point is, and this is why I like this trade setup, is because the profit here was 9 times greater than the initial risk. Remember, we use correct position sizing. In this case, 2% on a 20,000 US dollar account. Notice how we've done our risk in US dollars because our account is in dollars. If you've got a euro account, say of 50,000 euros, the initial risk would be in euros as well. So we can change how the risk profile is displayed on the chart by different accounts if you wish to set those up. But I'm just using a sample $20,000 account, risk 2%. That would mean using going long one contract. The initial risk would be in about 340 US dollars, and as the market went up, the profit would have been just over $3,000. So in other words, 9 times greater than the initial risk. So an absolutely brilliant example of an MTPredictor Holy Grail trade setup, and all set up because we went to the higher time frame chart, the 15-minute chart, and put our DP levels on the chart in advance, and we notice how that the market came down to this level here, which was actually the low of the day. That then rallied up into here, which would be a wave 1. We then had an ABC correction down here, and then a wave 3 up into our next DP level, which seems to be nailing pretty much the high of the day here as well. Notice we have a TS2 buy setup here on the 3-minute chart. Obviously we'll be ignoring this because well, one, the market's pretty much closed now, and secondly, we're coming off that 15-minute resistance. But the trade setup that was actually on the 5-minute chart, and that was this TS3 buy setup here. Why is it nicknamed a Holy Grail? Well, because it has the largest profit potential in relation to the smallest initial risk. So an absolutely brilliant example there of our MTPredictor Holy Grail trade setup unfolding on the 5-minute DAX just now, where the profit would have been a very, very nice 9R, or 9 times greater than initial risk. These are the kind of trade setups that MTPredictor is designed to catch, and it's no surprise why this Holy Grail trade setup, as we've nicknamed it, is one of my favourite trade setups.